So I've even got a big pillow in case you want to take the pressure off some of the trigger points. So give yourself a few options. So today we're going to do the torso, the triggers of the torso. And one area that I've not really focused on much is the abdominal triggers. We'd start with the abdominal triggers and then we'll go into the back. Usually I do it the other way around and then I run out of time. So before we start, I just want to do a vagal release. So I want you just to hold your chin. So your right hand holds the chin, left hand goes up to about 11 o'clock. So you just, maybe you're wiggling the fingers. So if you're like me and you find it hard to focus, wiggle the fingers and then that just gives you something to look at. Otherwise you find yourself looking around and thinking about what you're going to have for lunch. So you want to feel that strong stretch in the eyes. You're waiting for that deeper breath to swallow. Maybe you just feel like you want to yawn at the back of the throat. It's about 30 seconds. So to cover the face, just give yourself a moment. And then you hold your chin with your left hand and you take your fingers up to the right and you're looking up 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock. Try not to move the skull, make the stretch come from the eyes. So 30 seconds. Nice big sigh for me on this side. So obviously it varies which side might be a little bit blocked and a little bit out of balance. So 30 seconds and then just cover the face, drop the head, take a nice deep breath. Slowly come back up. So just start by testing how tight you are through the heart area. You're going to put your fingers at the top of your breastbone and your fingers at the bottom of your breastbone, and a little bit like a seesaw, you're going to rock forward at the top of the breastbone, let the bottom of the breastbone swing back, and then rock backwards with the top of the breastbone, let the bottom of the breastbone swing forward. So just go from one to the other and just assess how tight am I in the chest. How tight am I in the spine, in the rib cage? Try not to throw your head around too much. So I'm very tight. Between the shoulder blades especially, I can feel that I'm pretty tight. Okay, and then you can just put your hands on the sides of the ribs and just take a really wide lateral breath. How easy is the breathing? So hopefully by the time we finish this, we'll feel that we're much more open through the thoracic spine and the breathing quality of the breath is a lot better. So the first trigger that we're going to do in the front is the subclavial trigger point, which is the collarbone, right in the middle of the collarbone, on the underside of the collarbone. So when you do this, put one finger on the trigger and then another finger on the finger so that your finger doesn't get tired. If you've got a knobbler, I know Carol's got a knobbler, if you've got a knobbler, you could use the knobbler instead, or you could use a pretty hard ball and you could put the ball into that place and press the ball, and that works pretty well as well. So I'm going to do it with my fingers. So you're in the middle, underneath the collarbone, right up against the collarbone, and then you're going to put a finger on the finger and then just move it around a bit until you find that area of tenderness. It's quite exquisitely painful, this one. So the subclavius is all tied into pec minor and breathing. There's an artery and a nerve that runs through here as well that radiates into the arm. Quite often when these muscles in the chest are too tight and short, they're going to pull your shoulders forward, they're going to lift up your shoulder blades, and they're going to affect your posture. And then that becomes a vicious syndrome and it gets worse and worse, more and more uncomfortable. If your fingers are tired, you could use thumbs. Thumbs are stronger than fingers. Even just one thumb on this side is fine. And like I say, you could use a ball or you could use your knobbler. The knobbler is a good investment. So if you want a knobbler, you can just let me know and I'll buy one. I'll get one for you. There's all different sorts. And they just really save your fingers when you're doing trigger point work. So while you're doing this, you could move your head, you could pronate and supinate your palm. Just sort of feel, I can feel this right into the fingers. Nice deep breathing. Got a lot to cover today, but I just wanted you to think about the trigger points to the front of the body because that's an area that we haven't focused on that much. So now come to the other side, halfway along the collarbone on the underside. Maybe find the spot with your fingers. Fingers are great for feeling the tone of the muscle. Fingers are great for finding those little knots that you have in the muscle. Sometimes it feels like there's a little pea in there, or maybe even a marble. I've got one that's the size of a marble in my trapezius. Or maybe it's just a band, like a sinewy band, but you're just trying to find where the blockage is, and then finger on finger. So for me, it's just as sore on this side as it was on the other side. Or you could use your knobbler, or you can just get a firm ball and press. So I'll try it with the ball now because that's pretty good as well. And just find that pressure. The beauty of the ball is it's going to give you more pressure on the larger area so that you're going to really get that blood supply cut off to the trigger point so that it releases. I've gone back to the knobbler. The knobbler is very acute. It's found that spot. So you're moving your head. You could supinate, pronate, turn the palm up, turn the palm down. So like I say, exquisitely painful. So I just want that to release. Take some deep breaths. So obviously breathing muscles. About 30 to 60 seconds. If it was really, really painful, you might come back to it later. Okay, so pec major has got lots of triggers. It's got 2 here, there and there, sort of on a diagonal line, and then there's all triggers all through here. So anywhere above the bra line, and then there's also 2 that are under the bra line as well. So maybe grab a firm ball, hard as you can find, 2 hands, and just, you know, just press the ball into the chest and just do some circles. And for me, all my chest muscles are tight. I'm always focusing on my back and I forget about the front. That's why I wanted to start with the front today. So you press and circle, move the ball around and you'll find those exquisitely tender places. So if you find something that's really painful, just stay there. Move your neck, you can take some deep breaths. So for men, you can go anywhere on the chest. For women, you're going just above the bra line, not on the breast tissue, but into the deep muscle of the chest. So pec major is your big chest muscles and very deep muscles. So, you know, that's why they get quite sore. So again, I'm following the upper line of the bra, above the bra, the breast tissue, and I'm finding lots of triggers through here. So when you find that tender place, just stay there. You could just press with 2 hands. You could just take some deep breaths. When you find those triggers, you can feel that it feels a little bit difficult to breathe. And that's, you know, these are breathing muscles. So that's showing you how when these muscles are tight and locked, your ability to expand your rib cage is going to be compromised because those muscles are really locked up and tight. So just move around, find the triggers. So for me, one here was very active and one over here was very active, but we're all different. Take some deep breaths. I can even feel this in my neck through the fascial system, so just move. And then we have 2 triggers that are sort of on the bottom side of the rib cage. So you go under the bust if you're a girl, we're all girls today, and you're just gonna just see if there's anything tender. Oh, there it is. I can feel it, very sore. So just, again, just find those trigger points. 2-handed press. You could lie on your front with the ball in a sock, but I think seated is a better way to go. You've got a lot more control. And remember, for some of us, ribs aren't that strong. As you get lower in the rib cage, if you've got any sort of osteoporosis or anything, you've got to be careful of that lower third of the rib cage. These ribs aren't as strong. They don't connect in the front, which gives them more stability and strength. So the smaller ribs as you go down, you're just going to be gentle. You might be in an area that feels a little bit ticklish as well. So you can feel the nerves are maybe a little bit active here. So I found my triggers underneath the bra line pretty easy. They were quite apparent. So, you know, we haven't done the chest recently, so maybe you're going to do this 2 or 3 times over the week. So come to the other side, go above the line of the bra and just double-handed press and just find those triggers in the other side. So again, very sore. This is probably one of the muscle groups that you're going to be equally sore on both sides because they're breathing muscles. So some things are to do with habitual patterns or right-handedness, left-handedness, but this is breathing. So I think they both need to be kept a good eye on. So I found my trigger point pretty quickly because it was so painful. Nice deep breaths. Try and feel like you're expanding the rib cage as you're releasing that trigger. And also, if it's very painful, try and think positive thoughts because it might be taking you into an 8 or 9 out of 10. Again, I can feel my neck. My neck is quite tight. So fascially, through the fascial system, we're connected through the neck into the skull, all the way through the front of the body and all the way through the back of the body. So that's why if you're pressing on a point down here, you might feel it in the back of the neck through the fascial system. So I can feel right across the back of my neck, feels super tight. So then coming out, just anywhere there's a cluster of triggers all through the chest. So just move the ball around, find those exquisitely painful places. Take your deep breaths. If you're feeling it in the neck like me, move the neck. So you're encouraging the fascial system to let go. So rather than staying stiff and sort of constricting and holding your breath, which is sending messages to the nervous system to not do that, you're breathing, you're moving, you're trying to open up, and then that just sends all the right messages to help the body let go of these tight places. So again, I'm moving out towards the armpit. So around the front edge of the armpit, there's a whole cluster here as well. Breathe. Sometimes you can feel the nipple. So through the nervous system, sometimes breast pain can be due to tightness in the muscles, not necessarily, to do with issues that we might worry about. So it's always a good idea to check these chest triggers. So these ones aren't so bad, or there's one there. Just breathe. So whenever you get any pain, really, always check out the trigger points first, because quite often the doctors don't study trigger points. You get misdiagnosed as something else, which involves treatment, medication, maybe surgery. So you don't want to go down that route until you're really sure that you've explored all the avenues. So if you're a girl under the bra line and you're just doing the lower part of the rib cage, ooh, there it is. They're so easy to find these for me because they're so painful. Again, you're breathing, you're looking around, thinking happy thoughts. So I don't mean fake happy thoughts. I just mean use words and imagery that suggest opening, releasing, relaxing, melting, letting go. You can use, some people are word people, some people are visual and they need to imagine flowing water or things, things that just help you to melting ice cream. Just pictures that just help your brain to do that and let go. So they're your pectoralis major muscles. So then you've got your pectoralis minor, which is almost like 3 fingers that comes down and attaches to the ribs at the top. So the trigger points are, if you were to make a little hand, put your thumb on your shoulder and fingers pointing down, where your middle finger is, that's trigger point 1. So, and you might have already covered it when you did pectoralis major, but just give it a second press and just see how it feels. Pec minor, even though it's a smaller muscle group, causes a lot of trouble in the shoulder girdle because it pulls your shoulders forward. it compresses the nerves and the blood vessels that go underneath the collarbone, and it just causes breathing issues. We tend to breathe, if we're breathing up here, we're using our neck muscles and our pectoralis minor to breathe, instead of breathing right down into the low sides using the diaphragm. So this is where we can get into trouble when we're anxious, worried, and we start to hyperventilate and we get into problems. That's the first trigger point. And then if you come down a bit, just so in the same line as where the top ball is, just above where your bra line would be if you're a girl. If not, if you're a guy, it would be 2 or 3 fingers down. And you're just going to find that second trigger point. So that's the lowest rib that the pec minor attaches to. So just above the top of the bra. So you're going to go, put your thumb on the top of your shoulders, spread your fingers down. Where your middle finger is trigger point 1, and then trigger point 2 is somewhere below there on that vertical line. So for me, this one is very sore. The top one wasn't a problem at all, but this one is quite active. Take some deep breaths. So I'm still using the ball. You could be using your knobbler. Fingers, I find fingers are quite bendy, and they're soon going to get tired. So maybe it's better to find something that just really works for you. Okay, so that's about 60 seconds. So put the other hand on your shoulder, put the thumb on the top of the shoulder, do your 3 fingers down, and where your middle finger is pretty much, if you just move the ball around, you'll find that upper trigger. So it's the muscle attaches to the top ribs. So you're just following those ribs down until you find your triggers. So just take some nice deep breaths, move the head. Do a little bit of an assessment about how it feels from one side to the other. Right-handedness, left-handedness is going to have a part to play. Maybe you've had surgeries or injuries, that will have a part to play as well. So for me, this one is more active than this one was. And then you're rolling the ball down vertically, maybe 2 ribs. Think in terms of ribs. So you're above the bra line, but for me, I'm right on the top of the bra line, and there's my second trigger. It is easy to find. I'm just doing the double-handed press. So the visual is that you're applying enough pressure that you're changing the blood flow to that nerve ending and the tissues around it, so that it just lets go of its reflex, and then the blood and the lymph all starts to flow again, and that nerve starts to operate properly again. It's freed up. So it's not a huge pressure, but it's firm pressure. And generally with this ischemic pressure, you just try and apply a little bit more pressure towards the end. The pain goes up and then it quickly drops down again. And then you know that you've managed to release that reflex. We'll take the ball away, do some shoulder rolls. So the next one we're going to do is Sternalis. So if you think about your breastbone, you've got the bottom of your breastbone and the top of your breastbone, halfway down in the middle, and then out to the side. So I'm going over to the right side, and there's a trigger point on the joint where the breastbone joins into the ribs. So for me, I mean, you can go down each of the ribs that come into the breastbone. They're all going to be slightly active, but the middle one tends to be the most active. So this is the one on the opposite side. If I hold the ball here, opposite side to your heart, so your heart is here. On the opposite side, this is a heart trigger point as well. So it releases tension in the pericardium, in the sac of fascia and muscle that's around the heart. And it's only on this side for the heart. You don't do it on the same side, you have to do it on the opposite side. If you do it on the other side, it's just a chest muscle release. So it's good if you get palpitations or arrhythmias, or just that feeling of tightness around the heart if you're anxious. So then you go to the same place on the other side of the breastbone. So for me, this side's really sore, so that's the chest muscles on this side. So it only refers to the heart on the right-hand side into the left, but on the left side, it's referring to the left-hand side chest muscles. So just breathe, move the head, just take notice of any connections you can feel through the nervous system. So again, I can feel this one in my neck again. I didn't feel that on this side, but I feel it on the left side. So your information gathering. Okay, so I'm going to put my ball on the floor. The next one we're going to do with our fingers, and that's the diaphragm trigger. So you've got the breastbone underneath, you're coming down the curve of the ribs, and you're sort of in the middle of the rib cage at the front. So I'm going to take 2 or 3 fingers, I'm going to hook under the ribs, and I'm just going to apply a little bit of pressure. So you're, maybe 2 fingers is easier. You're hooking under the ribs. And then if you're not sure, just do a and do an out breath, and you'll feel the diaphragm pull down. And just try and find anything in there. So I'm sort of moving my hand around like this. Try and find anything in there that feels a little bit uncomfortable. If you're not sure, you could just do the whole of that underside of the rib cage. Generally, this one's easier when you've got your knees pulled in and your abs are more relaxed. If you did this lying on your back with your legs out straight, it tightens up your abs. So sitting with the knees bent is a really good way to get in there. You could use your nobbler, but for me, it just feels we're very close to in the middle here, we've got our solar plexus where there's lots of nerves, and I don't think it feels nice to put fingers in there or the nobbler. So fingers out from the solar plexus is okay. You just sort of feel a bit yucky when you go in there, and there's a good reason for that. You don't want to be pressing on nerves. So try the other side, halfway down the ribs. I've actually changed to 2 hands, and I'm doing a sort of this is called stripping, where you push, you're sort of pushing the fluid through the muscles. You're trying to get under the rib cage with the fingers. And if you're not sure, just do a cough and you feel your diaphragm. So it's there. So it's surprising how much of your diaphragm you can reach just using the fingers. Something I like to do when I'm doing the diaphragm is the obliques. So you've got your fingers at the front, your thumbs at the back. You're just squeezing. Jessie, stop. You're squeezing. So you've got 2 obliques. You've got an external and an internal oblique. So thumbs at the back, fingers at the front, and then do it the other way around. Thumbs at the front, fingers at the back, and just see which of those feels the best for you. So internal, external obliques, you could, they're abdominal muscles. They're rotating muscles, but they're all part of our abdominal system. Now, we're going to go from here, we're going to go onto the floor. So I'm just going to move my things. So I want you to go onto the floor, and I want you to lie on your back with your head facing upwards. I'll show you where the trigger points are, and then I'll stay sitting. That way you can see where the triggers are, otherwise you're not going to be able to see easily. So the first one we're going to go to is think about your 6-pack muscles. If you put your hand in the middle under your breastbone and go all the way down to your pubic bone, that's your 6-pack muscles, and that's a pretty good indication of how wide that band of muscles is. So I want you to be just inside the muscle. So if you look at my hand, maybe you're coming in about 1 finger on the edge. If you're not sure, lift your head up and you'll feel the rectus muscles, the abdominal 6-pack muscles. If you lift your head up, you can feel the outer edge of them. I want you to be just inside the muscle, but quite close to the bottom of your rib cage. So there's a trigger point. If I show you with my ball, there's a trigger point about here. And you can just, with 2 hands, you can just press. So you could alternatively, you could try that with your nobbler. Or you could do it with 2 fingers and use your top hand to press into the bottom fingers. Okay, so if rectus abdominis gets blocked up and locked and tight, it pulls you in forward and it pulls you into a hunched position, which then is going to start to upset your back. So it's quite common for people that overtrain, that train a lot, to get backache because they've overdeveloped their abdominal muscles and they pull their back out of its true alignment. And that applies to your psoas muscle as well as your rectus muscles. So I found the longer I do this, so I'm doing a sort of a double finger, if you can see that with my fingers, I've made a sort of a prong, 2 fingers of each hand, and I'm just sort of pushing downwards. And as I do it, the muscles have relaxed and now I'm really getting in there. If your neck feels uncomfortable, you grab your pillow and just make sure your head is nicely supported. You're not looking at the computer once you know what you're doing. So just to keep this simple, we'll go over to the other side of the rectus muscles. So if you're not sure, lift your head up, you'll feel the edge of the rectus group, and then come in about 1 finger just below the rib cage, and just use your ball, use your knobbler, use your finger prong that you've made. So you've got 2 knuckles pushed together to give support to the fingers, and you're doing a downward press. Just take some nice deep breaths. Keep an eye on the time. This might end up being an abdominal class and I might run out of time for the back. We'll see how I go, but I always manage to run out of time somehow. So the second trigger point for rectus abdominis is you come down that band of muscle to where your pubic bone is, and again, you're 1 finger in just above your pubic bone, and that can be exquisitely painful there. So you're not on the pubic bone, you're just above the pubic bone, and you're about 1 finger in that band of muscle. But the band of muscle goes straight down the front, attaches to your pubic bone, and again, if you lift your head up, you can feel that muscle group jump up. You're just above the pubic bone, you're in about a finger's depth in, and just press with the fingers and just see if there's anything in there that's tender. You can do these lying on your stomach. So, you know, if you're not sure, if you're really struggling to find these triggers, you can just flip over onto your front, lie on the ball, and let the pressure of the floor do the work for you. So that's an alternative, but I just wanted to do this in a sitting position just to show you. So I'm just pushing in here, and then try the same position on the other side. You can also do this, you know, you could have 2 balls, 1 either side, and lie on your front. You could do the 2 up here and the 2 down here. You could do it with your roller just above the pubic bone. Not as deep as the fingers or the ball, but it's still quite effective. Okay, so that's your rectus abdominis. So now the psoas, I want you to go to your belly button, put your finger in your belly button, and then lift your head up and just feel that rectus abdominis band that goes down from the breastbone to the pubic bone. Feel it bunch up, and I want you to come to the outer edge in line with your belly button. Okay, so you've got your belly button here, you've got the edge of the rectus muscles, and you're just pushing your fingers in against the edge of the rectus muscles. Okay, it's raining here. So you're just pushing directly in, and then try and get underneath the rectus, and you're pushing downwards towards your spine and towards the processes that come out at the side of your spine. So this is one that you'll find that you don't feel much at first, and then as your abdominal muscles and fascia relax, you start to get much deeper into the psoas muscle here. So try and actively relax your abs. So when someone's poking their finger or a knobbler in there, your instinct is to contract your abs to protect yourself. So you've just got to find the right amount of pressure. I'm doing the 2-fingered, 4-fingered prong, and I'm just pushing in here. And even sitting, I can feel As you go deeper and deeper, you start to feel, so you're pushing down and then sort of under the six-pack muscles towards the spine. So again, you can do this one lying on your front with two balls either side of your belly button, about this space out, and the ball will do a pretty good job. But the beauty of using your fingers is you can feel the tone of the muscle. You're getting a whole load of information to the brain through the fingers that you wouldn't get through the ball. So again, when the psoas shortens and tightens, it pulls your spine forward and downward, so it compresses your spine and takes you out of that nice, safe, neutral spine, and it gives you backache. Okay, so this muscle goes from the bottom of your rib cage downwards, and then it comes down and it attaches to the inside of your leg bone, where it comes into the pelvis. So the second trigger point, if you find the bone of your pelvis, now this one's usually pretty painful. You're going to find the top of your pelvis, the crest of your pelvis, and you're just going to come inwards slightly, and then see if you could get underneath the rim of the pelvis. So if you're lying on your back, you want your knees bent, not legs extended, and you're using your thumb. The other thing you can do is you can lie on your side. I'll try that to show you. If you come onto your side and you're doing the top side, you can just get your thumb in here, or your fingers. You could use your knobbler. And if this is too difficult for your hands, you could lie on your front and you could put the ball here and then try and push the ball under the rim of the pelvis. So iliopsoas is a really big muscle here, very thick muscle. It fills up the inside of the pelvis, but you can feel quite a lot of it, especially when you lie on your side. Your organs all fall to the floor and creates a bit of space that you can get in there. So this point can be really, really painful if you've got issues in the hip, if you've got iliopsoas tightness. It's a good one for you, Annie. So see how you go on the other side. I'll come back to sitting. So we're doing the one at the belly button. So you find your rectus muscles, that band of muscles that comes down. You lift your head up to find the edge of it. You're in line with your belly button, and you're going underneath the band of muscle, and you're angling towards the spine, towards the processes at the side of your spine. So with psoas, it's very tied into your legs. You might find that one side is much more reactive than the other side. So if you've got a problem with a knee or a hip or the SI joints, you might notice that your psoas suddenly starts to become a little bit unhappy. So you're pushing downwards and then slightly under the rectus muscles. If you're not sure, lift your head up and you'll feel that outer edge become contracted, and then you can try and slide underneath. And then your second trigger is the crest of the pelvis, slightly inwards. You're getting your thumbs under there. So for me, sitting makes it a little bit hard to do, so I'm going to lie on my side. So my belly button one was fine, that's why I'm moving on. But if your belly button one is quite active, just stay there. So I'm just getting underneath. So for me, this one is really, I've got a tightness in this hip. So iliopsoas on this side is pretty unhappy. The other thing you could do is you could lie on your back and you could just take your fingers over to one side and see if that is an easier option. So, you know, it's not one size fits all. In fact, actually, I think lying on your back, you can get your thumbs under there a lot easier. Thinking about it. For me, it works better to lie on my back or my side. So just play around. And again, This side is a lot more uncomfortable. So maybe these are things that you do at night time when you go to bed. You're just lying in bed. It's easy to find these places and just sort of have a little exploration with your fingers and just see if you can find any muscles that are just not very happy. And even, you know, even a minute or two, you're going to feel a huge improvement in how your pelvis feels, how your hips feel, how your back feels. So for me, this one is very active. So note to self, I'm going to go back there later and give that a little bit of attention. So that's all the trigger points that we're going to look at on the front. So now we're going to come into the back triggers. We can still stay in a seated position because we're coming into the levator scapulae, the muscles that lift the shoulder blades up. And we're going to come to the base of the neck. We're going to lift our arm up so you can feel trapezius lift up. And you're going to see if you can slide your fingers under trapezius from the front of your shoulder. So you can feel there's a big wodge of muscle there. And you can sort of feel that there's a groove there that you could get under. We're not going to go backwards, but once we find that separation between the top of the shoulder and the trapezius, we're coming inwards towards the base of the neck. Okay, so I found mine straight away. So where the neck comes into the slope of the shoulder, you find your trapezius, and then you're pointing inwards. I've got my two fingers pointing inwards. You're only going to do it one side. And I'm using two fingers, and I'm trying to push under the trapezius. If you do it on this side, the trapezius lifts up as you lift your elbow up, which helps you find that exquisitely painful trigger point. Move your neck. So once you've found it, if you think you're going to get quite tired using this arm, you could grab your knobbler and you could change it for a knobbler and drop that arm down. Now you've found a spot. Or you could use your hard ball. That works pretty well. So relax the arm on the side that you're doing it on. Or you could just have two fingers. I like the fingers because with the neck, I like to get that biofeedback through the fingers about what the tension of the muscle is. Is it sinewy, wiry? How tight is it? And it just gives you a clearer picture in the brain. But if your fingers get tired, I know Carol said fingers get tired, use your knobbler. And there's soft nobblers and hard nobblers. I've got a really hard one, but you might have a nice soft one. There's a whole range out there. And just find something, even if you just look around your house, you'll probably find something that you could adapt to be a knobbler that's free. So trigger point 2, you've got trigger point 1 at the shoulder blade, trigger point 2 here, and then trigger point 3 is halfway up the side of the neck. Trigger point 2 is usually the most active. So I'm doing a bit of stripping. I'm pushing into the trapezius, under the trapezius, into the processes at the side of the neck, where the levator scapulae attaches. So do the same thing on the other side. Put the hand on the base of the neck where it meets the shoulder. Lift your elbow up and you'll feel trapezius. Put your thumb underneath trapezius and just push backwards and into the side of the neck. So you're looking for that exquisitely painful place, easy to find because it hurts. And then maybe you're going to change to your other hand. You're going to put your hand on the thigh, relax that arm. So obviously if you're doing it with fingers, you can't have long fingernails. That's not going to work. So you've got two shoulder blades. You're probably going to have two very active trigger points. So levator scapulae trigger point 2 is noted as being one of the most productive trigger points in the body. So if you release this trigger point, you get a whole huge response in the upper body that's really beneficial. So that would tell you that it's active in 99.9% of the population. Okay. So the next one we're going to do is you could be lying on your back and we're going to go to trigger point 1, which is that upper edge of your shoulder blade. So you feel the inner edge of your shoulder blade, you come up a bit. You can see that the shoulder blade goes at an angle. In that deep muscle there is trigger point 1. So you could put one ball, I'll turn around. You could put one ball in each of those places. Put your head on a pillow. And you're going to just settle into those two balls and find where it's tolerable. And then start by moving your nose, maybe floating an arm. You can do, hold your elbows and lift and lower, that's pretty strong. And so is elbow circles. Okay, so easiest is just a single arm float. Getting harder, double arm float. And then holding the elbows and moving the elbows through a circle, harder again. And I think the hardest one is to lift the elbows, forearms towards the forehead, and you're really pulling on those shoulder blades, so you're really activating that muscle. I'll use my nobbler here. Some people, trigger point 1, trigger point 2, it's hard to tell which is the most active. So some people, if you've got a lot of tightness through the shoulder girdle, you might say, well, actually, trigger point 1 is a lot more painful to me than trigger point 2. So just try them both. Doing the other side, so I'm just doing it with my nobbler because I'm not lying down on the floor. So once you're lying on your back, you can double up with these balls. Things get a little bit faster. So now, just keep the two balls where they are, but just take your left hand across to your right side and just squeeze the trapezius. So you've still got the ball where it is, just below, but you're squeezing with your thumb and 2 fingers, so you've got your snake bite clawed hand, and you're squeezing trigger point 1 and 2 through the trapezius here, while you're working the levator scapulae trigger as well. And this one, obviously, we all know that this one really feeds tension into the neck. So you're moving your head. So you want to feel the thumb and the first and the second finger pulling together into one point, and you just squeeze to whatever degree you feel you can tolerate. So this is another universal trigger point that's always going to be active in most people. Nice deep breaths. There's not many places you can get to 3 trigger points all in one go, but by doing the grip with the snake bite, you can get to these 3. So it's probably one you see people doing the most. They sort of instinctively know just to squeeze here. And then take your right hand across to the left side and just do that as well. So thumb at the front, first and second finger at the back. You've still got the 2 balls in the levator scap point, and you just squeeze those 3 fingers together. Move your neck. Take a nice deep breath. So we're going to jump ahead a little bit now. We're going to come between the shoulder blades. So where those 2 balls are, I want you to bring them down a little bit. So you've got that upper edge. If that was your 2 shoulder blades, the inner edge of your shoulder blade and then the angle that goes across. We were here, levator scapulae, hang on. We were here. So now we're going to come just to the top of the inside of the shoulder blades, 1 ball on either side. So you might just push your body upwards and get those balls at the top of the shoulder blades, in between the shoulder blades, so almost up against the inner edge of the shoulder blade, but right near the top of the shoulder blade. So if you reach your hand across, you can feel the upper edge, you know, just inside. So here we're on still trigger points for trapezius, but we're also coming into trigger points for serratus, breathing muscles in the upper back. So we're going to gradually come down the inner edge of our shoulder blades. So there's your 2 shoulder blades again. So we're here, and you're gradually going to push your body upwards so that you roll the ball down the inner edge of your shoulder blade. So all through here, you've got trigger points for trapezius, serratus, and rhomboids. So there's nowhere through here that you're not going to find active triggers. So you've got two balls, one either side, up against the inner edges of the shoulder blades. Move your neck, just make sure your head's not hanging backwards, your neck is supported. And you could do your arm floats again. Anything that moves those shoulder blades around is going to be helpful. You could float them both up. You could hold your elbows and do your elbow circles. You could just lift and lower. Just find what's really working for you. Bring that to my knobbler. So super, super active triggers all through here. So just keep pushing your body upwards, moving your pillow up, moving your body upwards so that those balls start to roll down the space between the shoulder blades and the spine in that band of muscles that goes and fills up that space. And you're just finding the places that are really painful. Take some nice deep breaths and you're just moving your neck, you're floating the arms. So maybe you're coming down into that middle band, maybe you're coming down to that lower band. So still within the edges of your shoulder blades at the moment. So what I want you to do now, you might need to take the balls out for this one. You're still going to be lying on your back, but you're going to feel across and you're going to feel where the spine of your shoulder blade, that ridge that goes across. And then you're going to be just underneath the ridge of the spine of the shoulder blade, but inside the inner edge. So if that's your shoulder blade, you've got the spine of the shoulder blade here, you've got the inner edge, I'll do it this way. So you've got the spine of the shoulder blade here, the inner edge. You're on the bone underneath the spine. So you're actually on the bone, but underneath the spine of the shoulder blade, if that makes sense. So there's an exquisitely painful place there as well, which is still trapezius. So, so find that ridge and then go underneath the ridge. You can sort of reach it with your finger. If I do it here so you can see, you can sort of just about reach, and where your middle finger is in the deep muscle, there's a trigger point. So if you find it with your finger, and then get the ball there, and then see, it depends how flexible you are, see if you could find the same spot with the other hand and put two balls. So you've got one ball here, and you're lying on the two balls. So your two balls are going to be sort of here and here on the shoulder blades. So if you're in the wrong place, you'll be hitting infraspinatus, and that's good as well, but we still, at the moment, we're trying to get to the triggers of the trapezius. So same things, arm floats, moving your head, double arm floats, you could do circles, going both ways. Nice deep breaths. So the next muscle group we're going to find are the Latissimus dorsi muscles and Teres major. If you put your hand, so maybe you're sitting up for a minute just to give yourself a break. If you take your right hand through the armpit and then just feel at the back of your armpit, you're going to find your Latissimus dorsi and your Latissimus dorsi and your Teres major. Okay, and if you're not sure where those muscles are, just pull your shoulder backwards. And as you pull your shoulder back, you'll feel these muscles. It feels like fat at first, but if you pull the shoulder back, you suddenly realize that's not fat, it's muscle. There's muscle in there. So with your fingers, just find anything that feels a little bit sore. So higher up is going to be teres major, and lower down is going to be lats. So anywhere down through here. So this is the one that if you're not sure, you could get a half roller, and you could put the half roller on the floor, and you could just lie on the half roller, and you could just work through the back of the armpit, across the shoulder blade, through the back of the armpits. That's one option. Okay. I've got little sandballs and they're really good. I can get these for you as well. They're a little bit more expensive than the massage balls, but they're a nice extra option because they're quite firm, but they've also got a little bit of give in them. And you could just roll the ball across the back of the armpit and just find anything that feels a bit tender. If not, you're going to use a soft rolled up towel or a soft ball. You don't want to go in here with a hard trigger point ball because it is going to be quite uncomfortable. If you put your hand behind your head like I am, you're really stretching those muscles as well, so you're going to find them quite easily. If not, you put a pillow here and you just relax your head on the pillow and just melt your body into these triggers. So for me, these are very active triggers. If you do a lot of stuff with your arms, like gardening and things, these muscles are going to get really, really, anything that's pulling, you're going to really get active in these muscles. So, you know, the book says, if you read the books on trigger points, anything that involves sort of strong pulling, you're going to irritate these triggers. Excuse me. So higher up, teres major, lower down, even coming down towards the sort of the bottom of the side of the rib cage. So the latissimus muscles, they create a big sling that goes underneath the shoulder blades. So you're going to find their triggers in the side of the chest. So for me, this is really finding an active trigger here. So you could hold still and apply ischemic pressure, or you could do a movement which is stripping, where you're pushing the fluid through the tissue. So when you find that place, just maybe just hold still for a minute and just press. Okay, so what we did on one side, we'll do to the other. So all the different options: rolled up towel, half roller, it's nice and soft, or if you've got a sandball or even a squishy football that's a little bit of air pulled out of it, that's going to be good as well. Probably the squishy football, I didn't mention that before, but that's the softest, kindest option. And then a towel would be second. So start at the back. If you're not sure, you just put your hand at the back of your armpit, spread your fingers, and then just dig around a little bit with your fingers. So there's one there, and there's another one a little bit lower down. Okay, and if you want to find that muscle, just pull your shoulder back, and you'll feel the muscle suddenly become very active. So find your triggers. You're lying on your side. Oops, bit too low. That's it. And you could be supporting your head, or you could grab your pillow and put your head on the pillow. Keep an eye on the time. So if the trigger point is not active, just move into the, move down, come down the side of the rib cage. So for me, that one's fine. Ooh, there's one. So anything in the side of the rib cage, from the armpit down, you're going to be in the territory of teres major and latissimus dorsi. So very active here. So I'm right-handed, and these triggers on the right side are particularly active. So coming down, there's the second one. So you've got a high up one for latissimus dorsi, and then you've got a lower one as well. And teres major is a little bit higher up. So you've got teres major, lat 1, lat 2. So again, just remember these lower ribs, you're not going to put huge force on them. You're going to be gentle. Firm pressure, but not, you know, not too much body weight. That's why putting the hand under the head is a good idea, or using a pillow. Okay, so we're coming into the last two. We'll get 2 balls, same size, not too big. We're doing QL. We all know where QL is. So we're lying on our back, and QL between the lowest rib and the pelvis, right up against the spine. So you're under that 12th rib, the lowest rib, and you're just going to, you're on the processes that come out at the side of the spine, and you can just do some pelvic tucks here. So you've got a very active trigger just under the 12th rib, and you've got another trigger just above the rim of the pelvis at the back, but in line with the top one. So where the top one is, if you were to come down to the rim of the pelvis, so still either side of your spine, trigger point 2. So either of those can be quite active. You can also do a mini march when you're in that lower position, lifting the leg is just going to push into the ball. You can do pelvic tucks, whatever feels good. So you've got 2 triggers right up against the processes of the spine, of the lumbar spine, and then you've got 2 trigger points back up to the 12th rib, but a little bit out from where you were. So if you think about 2 hands that go either side of your spine, you've done the inner one, and now you're sort of going towards the outer edge of that band of muscle. So you can sort of feel, if you push with your fingers, you can feel the spinal muscles, the outer edge of them, and you're just sort of inside the muscle, but quite close to the outer border. And again, just do some little tucks. And if you want to go a little bit stronger, you could do a knee lift. Just keep going with that. So just think about where that outer edge of your spinal muscles is running down to the back of the pelvis. So you're coming down in line with the upper ball, and you're coming right as if you're trying to get under the rim of the pelvis at the back. So pelvic tucks. So this place here is called your PSIS. It's your posterior superior iliac spine. It's the highest place at the back of your pelvis. And it's also where it drops down into your SI joints. So a lot of activity here. You can come back into your mini march. You could do knee circles. If you're doing knee circles, abs are active. You're not relaxed in your abs. Other side. So just to finish, take those 2 balls and put them one on top of the other on your sacrum, on the bone at the bottom of your pelvis, and just balance your pelvis on those 2 balls. So you've got one high and one underneath on the sacrum. Take your feet nice and wide, put your hands on the bones at the front of your pelvis, and then just very gently, the least amount of effort you can use, close your eyes, just gently sway the bones of your pelvis. Try and let go of your leg muscles. Try and let go of your abdominal muscles. So the movement is being created by your fingers and your hand and your arm muscles, not from your abdominal muscles, not from your bottom, not from your legs. You're actively relaxing. So there's a nice movement in the hips where the leg bones come into the hip. There's nice movement in the pelvis. There's even movement in your lumbar spines, and the more passive you are, the more you relax, the better. So you could quite easily stay here for a couple of minutes and you'll just feel super relaxed after you've done this. So it's a sacral release. Just a little bit longer. Just go inside your pelvis and just see if you could relax all the muscles inside your pelvis. Just feel heavy. If you don't know how to do that, just feel heavy. Take a nice deep breath in. Nice deep breath out. And then just take the balls away. Lift your bottom up gently. Take the balls away from underneath of you. You could just bring your knees into your chest one at a time. Bring your head into your knees. Just give your spine a nice stretch. Gently take the head down. Take the feet down. Just roll over into sitting. And we'll just come back into that little assessment. We're just going to see the hand at the top of the breastbone, the bottom of the breastbone. Just tip the breastbone up and down. Just see how you feel in the spine, in the rib cage. See if it feels a little bit freer now. And then just put the hands at the side of the ribs and just take a nice deep breath in. See if you can get a nice deep breath. Moving those ribs out to the side. Just roll the shoulders, move the neck. And that was the trigger points for the torso.